Alright, thank you for turning into part 2, which is solving two-step equations. What you need to do with two-step equations is obviously 2 steps. You have to add or subtract first for everyone except this number 5, and then you are going to multiply or divide. So number 1 is the most typical equation that you will see, that is 2 steps. When you look at these 3 terms, you have a 2x, an 8, and a negative 14. You need to ask yourself which one of those look alike. So if I were combining like terms like we did, this 8 would look alike, and that negative 14 is alike. However, I cannot combine like terms because there's this equal sign, which is a barrier. So I need to move this 8 to its best friend over here, which is a negative 14. To do that, I need to do the opposite of a plus 8, which is a minus 8. So I'm going to minus 8 on both sides. So from one-step equations, I know that a minus 8 and a plus 8 are going to cancel out, leaving me with nothing. And then negative 14 minus 8, forgive me, my mental math is not too great, would be negative 22. You're going to bring down the 2x, and you've done your first step. So now we need to do our second step. These look like problems like we just did. I have a number and a variable right beside each other, so I'm going to divide by the number beside that variable, which is a 2. 2's are going to cancel. I'm left with x equals a negative 11. Alright, let's hop down to number 2. This is a little bit tricky because you see this negative right here. So out of the ones that look alike, 6 and a 5 look alike. This 6 is next to the variable, so I need to get rid of this 6. The opposite of this 6 is a negative 6. So do not let this negative sign with you, it is with the x. So I'm going to minus 6 on both sides. Goodbye 6's. I am left with the negative x, which I know that's an imaginary little negative 1x there. And then I know 5 minus 6 is negative 1. Okay, I've done my first step, so now my last step is to divide by the number next to my variable, which would be a negative 1. I'm left with x equals a positive 1. Because a negative divided by a negative is positive. There's the bell. And on number 3, looks a little tricky because we have a fraction. Not that tricky. Which ones look alike? That 9 looks alike, and that negative 1 look alike because they do not have a variable. Which one is on the side with the variable? This 9 right here. So I need to get rid of this 9. The opposite of a 9 is a negative 9. If I negative 9 on the left, I need to negative 9 on the right. My 9's will cancel out. I'm going to bring down that x divided by a 3. And then on the right side, I have a negative 10. So next step, what are they doing to the variable? They're dividing by a 3. The opposite of dividing is a multiply. So I'm going to multiply by 3 on the left side and on the right side. My 3's are going to cancel out, leaving me with x equals, multiply those two numbers and get a negative 30. Okay? So another way I remember it is you can see some cross multiplying happening when you've got a number on bottom and a number on top. Shortcut is to just cross multiply those two numbers and get a negative 30. Alright. Moving on to number 4 up here. Got a fraction again, but I'm going to see which ones are alike. That 3 and that negative 6 are alike, but I need to get rid of the one next to the variable, so I need to subtract 3 on both sides. My 3's will cancel. I'm left with 3/2 x equals, and then a negative 9. So back to one-step equations. To get rid of a fraction, I need to do the reciprocal. So the opposite of this, or the reciprocal, will be 2/3. So I'm going to multiply by 2/3 on both sides. Let me do that in green. If I multiply by 2/3 on the left, I need to do it to the right side. Alright, so now my 2's can cancel, my 3's can cancel, and I'm left with an x on the left side. And then negative 9 times 2 would be negative 18, divided by 3 is negative 6. Remember, if you are trying to type in a fraction in the calculator, it is the alpha button, the green button, the y equals, and then enter if you want to enter a fraction that way. All right, number 5 has 2 stars because in every other problem that we've done, I've added or subtracted, and then I multiplied or divide. On number 5, this one's different because I'm going to multiply first. Anytime you have everything on the top, the numerator, divided by a single number, you've got to get rid of this 6 on bottom. So since they're dividing by a 6, I'm going to times by a 6 on both sides. Okay. Immediately these 6's are going to cancel out because 6 divided by 6 will give me a 1 and cancel out. So go ahead and immediately cancel those out. I'm going to bring down that x minus 5. And then negative 3 times 6 would be negative 18. Now I've got a one-step problem, so I need to plus 5 on both sides. X is going to equal a negative 13. So since those two signs were different, I'm going to subtract them and keep that negative sign because the 18 was a larger number. All right, they only get easier from here. On number 6, can't do anything to that negative 32, so let's look on this side. I notice that they both have an x, which means I can combine like terms, so let me combine like terms. So I'm going to circle that negative 4, circle that 12. I'm going to combine them. And then negative 4 plus 12 is an 8x, positive. Bring everything down. Now I have a one-step problem that I can solve. So I need to divide by an 8 on both sides. And x would equal negative 4. All right. So let's hop back up here to number 7. All right, on number 7, you'll see this on IXL a lot. They're going to try and trick you with 2 negatives, but we know 2 negatives right beside each other just means a big old plus sign, so I'm going to turn those 2 negatives into a plus sign. Like so. So now my problem reads 8x plus 3x equals negative 22. And I have a problem like we just did on number 6. So I'm going to combine like terms. And I know 8 plus 3, 8, 9, 10, 11x. Drop down the negative 22. Divide by 11. And x equals negative 2. Okay? Number 8 looks a little bit tricky because they've got 2 signs right beside each other. Why would we need 2 signs? The same thing as plus and negative is the same thing as a minus. So I'm going to rewrite this problem. 6x minus 19 equals 41. Okay? So we can ignore that plus sign because I know the opposite of this negative 19 is going to be a plus 19. So that's what I'm going to do to both sides, plus 19. My 19s are going to cancel out. That leaves me with 60 on the right side. Bring down your 6x. Last step is to divide by the number next to the variable, 6, and I would get 10. Okay? All right. One last problem and you're a rock star at two-step equations. Okay, my x is on the right side this time. That means I need to get rid of the number next to the variable. In this case, it's a 5. Some of you would think, hey, I need to add 5 because that's a negative sign right there. That negative sign is with the x, so I'm going to ignore that right now. All I know is I need to get rid of this positive 5. The opposite of a positive 5 is a negative 5, so I'm going to negative 5 to both sides. So now my 5 minus 5 will go away. 9 minus 5 is a 4. Equal sign, and I need to bring down that negative x. And we know that's the same as a negative 1x. My last step is to divide by the number next to the variable. So let me divide by negative 1, and I am left with a negative 4. And those are all the kinds of two-step problems that you could see on worksheets or IXL. or a quiz, for example. So feel free to pause this at any time and go back and ask me a question, raise your hand. But if you are ready to move on, options for you to practice, one-step equation puzzle. I have a two-step equation puzzle, and IXL is also fantastic for this. So if you are on IXL, you can now do J3 and J4 solving 1- and 2-step equations. Thank you for watching.